The earlobe, and again, this will vary in terms of the proportions in it, like the gap where the divide might get wider or something like that. But what's going to happen is the earlobe will split in two. You can kind of see it a little bit where it starts there. Splits in two. The back half that becomes the back edge of your ear wraps all the way around and tucks in about halfway down in the ear. Kind of does this backwards E kind of shape. The inside half of that comes in and hooks inside of that. There's a couple of other little indentations in it, and shadows and stuff, but that's basically the shape it takes. So don't just, for one thing, it's not curved, like don't do this, and don't, once you do have the ear in place, just don't fill it with squiggly lines. To kind of, I don't really want to deal with it, I'll just kind of, there's a lot of stuff going on, I'll just throw some lines in there and nobody will notice. Okay? So, the jaw comes straight back, almost on this line that I have here, just a little bit further. So jaw comes straight back. Then I have this angle where it starts. And that ends up being this much further down than the bottom of the chin. So it's going to end on this line, and it's going to end on that line right in front of the ear. So that's how you determine an angle. So I've got this very angular, kind of messy drawing, has a lot of lines on it and all that kind of thing. It's not really going to matter a whole lot because we're going to trace these anyway. That's why we're doing the first drawing on newsprint. But if I take this, clean it all up, I'm going to lighten it, get some of these marks. And I did this, again, a lot dark. There's no reason you have to do this dark at all. Like you would start with a harder pencil, 2H, something like that. You don't want to get too hard with newsprint usually, because it's such a smooth paper. It has a tendency, if you use a real hard pencil, to not make a mark very easily. So then I'm going to go back and round and refine this shape. And this is where curve the nose. Your nostril is usually just like a line. You're kind of looking across that, right? So it's not going to be this big kind of circular shape. And it's on the side of your nose. Like, don't make it part of the nose. It's actually like something that gets added to the side. Go ahead and bring the brow in. I'm not going to do anything like the eyebrow itself usually follows the same angle as the upper eyelid, but I'm going to do it as dashes because that's going to be a texture. We're going to do hair, right? Eyebrows, that kind of thing as a pattern of lines, a pattern of texture. It's not going to be solid. The last thing I want to do is outline it where it looks like it got painted on. And I'll do the same thing with the hair itself. Instead of like doing a big heavy outline, I'll just kind of give myself dashes using the face as a guide. I'm looking at how far back it is from what I've already drawn. Bring this out. So any kind of lines, And I moved, notice I kind of moved the mouth up a little bit. So this gives you plenty of chances to kind of refine your drawing and fix it. And even though I can't see the ear, I should know what her ears look like, but I don't. I hardly ever see them. I mean, her hair is really long. Then there's like a shadow here. I'm not going to do a lot with the shadows yet, but I just want to start kind of map. So this then is the drawing refined. What I'm going to do next, and this is why you have the graphite and all that, right? And this still looks funky. So it's a very kind of minimal drawing. I'm going to flip it over. I can kind of see where the face is at behind it. Like I can see through it enough that I can kind of see where the head's at. I'm actually going to take the graphite and almost clip my finger. I had a 2D design instructor when I was in school. We were cutting illustration board with a big utility knife, and he said, whatever you do, be careful and don't cut your finger. And he commenced to like almost slice his thumb off. So. I don't want to get it super dark, because when I trace this, I don't want it to be real messy. And all I need is what would end up being a very light graphite line. So I take the tissue, right? I might have to get a little bit darker. And if I have doubts, kind of hold it up so I can see through it. Newsprint is really thin. You can also, kind of mark off. If you hold it up to a window, you can kind of mark off the borders of what you want to put tone down on. You can do charcoal to do this, and we've got some real soft, like pastel charcoal that works really well. But it almost works too well in that it gets too flippin' dark. And I don't want a lot of excess. So anything that's kind of too much, I'm going to rub around and kind of get it so it's not loose on there, so it doesn't get all over my drawing paper. So then, you do not have to tape it down, but what you do have to tape it to is the drawing paper. Like I'm going to tape the newsprint drawing down onto the drawing paper so it cannot move. Because once you've started tracing this, if it shifts, if it comes loose in relationship to the drawing paper, you've got to start over. There's no way you're going to be able to find that spot again, unless you happen to line up edges or something. So I'm going to put it kind of where I want it, tape it securely. I'm not going to tape the bottom. All I do is tape it at the top because I want to be able to flip it up and make sure it's transferring, right? The best thing to use to trace it is a ballpoint pen. It gives you a nice hard line. You don't want to press too much because I don't want to dent the paper, but it gives you a nice hard line. The other benefit of using a ballpoint pen is I can see where I've already traced, because it's a different color mark, right? If I use a pencil to do it, number one, I'd have to use a hard pencil. So there's a chance I could rip the paper, but I'm also not going to be able to tell. I have to keep checking it. To make sure, what I've traced and what I haven't traced. Sorry. So it's real faint, but that's what I want. And I ignore all the other lines and all that kind of stuff, right? Bring in just what I need. For the drawing. Again, the hair becomes a series of kind of dashes. I don't want it to get too solid because the skin is going to come back and break up this. So take that up. Can you guys see that at all? Can you see how faint that is? It's right here. So it's there, but it's just really, really light, which is fine. It's not good for the video, but that's what you want. You don't want it to be overly dark. And I missed a couple spots, but they're not important. What we're going to do next, and I'm not going to do the whole thing because we're going to do that next class, is we're going to go in with the terracotta Prisma pencil and kind of go over this edge again. And this is also another opportunity for me to kind of check, how things are in terms of where they should be. That kind of stuff. And then I'm going to take a kneaded eraser and wipe off all the graphite. So the fact that Prisma pencil does not erase very easily is actually a good thing with these, because it allows me to wipe off the graphite and keep my Prisma pencil. And I'll finish that up when we do the next one. There's one up there. I'll put this one up there. What you want to do after that, right? This is where you need to be by next class. You don't do anything really with the terracotta yet. And I've got a short my forehead, Jesus. Yeah, I gotta change that. Anyway, so what you do with this, keep it. Two reasons. You're going to turn it in, because sometimes this gives me a clearer idea of where the drawing went before you kind of got in with the terracotta and the concave stick. The other reason you want to keep it is, say, you're walking out to your car, the wind catches your drawing, and it's gone. Or you're working on the drawing on the drawing paper at home and you spill coffee on it, or do something like that. You do not have to start over. If you have this, you just kind of even the graphite out in the back again, and then trace it again, and you're ready to go. Okay? So for tonight, we're going to try to get it mapped out